What's up, everybody? We're out here in January. It's too cold to go fishing, but it's not too cold to put something together for you guys in regards to taking your fishing to the next level for the upcoming 2020 season. So today we're going to talk about the 5 basic rod setups and a couple reels that you can use to take your bass fishing to the next level. Ready? Let's go. If your rods come with rod sleeves, use them. They will help you keep guides in your rods, and they will stop you from breaking them or getting broken tips or anything in between. So keep your rod sleeves and use them all the time. That's my recommendation. All right, so one thing I want to hit on is that all these rods were selected because they're under $100. You can get them pretty much anywhere online. They're usually almost always in stock, and they cover a wide variety of presentations, baits, everything. So brand aside, I'm going to link these rods and reels down below, but this is really just to help you understand kind of the trying to help you not waste money. There's no sense in having 2 or 3 or 4 of the same medium heavy rod, medium heavy fast, whatever it is, because really if you have these 4 or 5 rods, you cover a broad spectrum of what you're actually going to end up throwing out there for baits. So this is kind of the all-encompassing combination, and this is really to help you get from just starting to next level. You're probably getting hit with so much information that you don't know, really what your basic combination should be, what you should have with you, why you should use certain rods and reels, and what's the benefit of having them. I'm going to link all of the rods and reels down below, so you can go check them out if you want to. But for the most part, we're just paying attention to the weight range the rods can throw, what they're rated for, and why you're throwing them. Okay, so brand aside, rod, brand aside, reel, these are the 5 basic rods that I'm going to recommend you have in your arsenal. So the very first rod that you're going to be looking at is probably going to be your starter rod and reel, and it's going to be something that as you grow, it's going to become something more apt to a finesse presentation. So my recommendation there is going to be something like this. This is a 7'2" medium fast favorite whitebird. This rod and reel is set up to throw light baits, 1/4 to 1/2 ounce. So if you're just starting fishing, you can take this, throw Senkos on it, weightless. You can throw a small weight with a small jig head. You can throw small curly tail grubs. You can throw a Ned rig like this one, and it gives you the ability to really start fishing small lakes, ponds, creeks, rivers. Throw a decent amount of baits that aren't super heavy. They get you acclimated to using the rod and reel and get you acclimated to fishing, feeling bites, just getting your feet wet on the angler side. So my number 5 recommendation is going to be something in the medium to medium heavy, moderate, just something really soft that can throw baits from a 1/4 ounce up to a 1/2 ounce. Once you've gotten acclimated to fishing certain baits, stick baits, Ned rigs, stuff like that, and you're looking to grow your arsenal of rods and reels, and you're looking to maybe have 2 different presentation specific setups, you're probably going to upgrade to something like this. You still stay in the spinning category, but this is rated to throw up to 3/4 ounce baits. The reason you're going to have something like this, this is a medium heavy, moderate, and I use a rod like this out on Lake Erie, throwing big tubes, throwing some heavier jerk baits, throwing some heavier Ned rigs. They make Ned rigs now that are up to 3/8 ounce. So if we're going to power fish them in deep water, that's what I'm going to throw with these. I'm going to throw a little bit heavier line on here. Like this is 15-pound braid instead of the 10-pound braid. This will go to a 8 to 10-pound fluorocarbon leader. This will primarily go to 6 or 8-pound fluorocarbon. So like I said, the line isn't really going to be anything crazy, but you got to make sure you have something that you can throw out there really hard and get a bait really far away from you. So as you're kind of going and fishing maybe a little bit larger ponds, lakes, streams, rivers, this is going to be your secondary setup. So your number 2 setup that you're going to add is probably going to be your next step, and that's going to be something like this 7'3" medium heavy favorite whitebird. the next rod that you're probably going to end up, going to, once you've spent some time with a spinning rod and reel combination, you maybe want to start trying some different baits, bigger spinner baits, buzz baits, maybe some top water stuff like a spook or a walking bait. You're probably going to start throwing a Texas rig, because it's going to make a little bit more sense as you're growing and as you're watching videos here on YouTube. You're going to see a lot of people throwing it, and that's where really this rod comes into play. This is a 7-foot favorite Defender. This bait or this rod throws 3/8 up to 1 ounce. I would recommend probably 3/8 to 3/4 ounce, because a lot of people try to throw 1 ounce leads on these or 1 ounce sinkers, and when you do that with your hook and with your bait, a lot of times you're overloading the rod, so you risk breaking it. So my suggestion would be 3/8 to maybe 3/4. This is a medium heavy fast. You're going to be able to throw spinner baits, chatter baits, buzz baits, jerk baits, some crank baits if you want to throw those. This is kind of an all-around beginner style bait cast rod. It's not just this rod itself, but it's the fact it's a medium heavy fast action, covers a wide array of weights that you're going to throw with it, so you can take a huge selection of baits, and it opens up a lot more when you move from these to these. Now, these still have their place, especially when you're using certain presentations, like I said, Ned rigs, throwing tubes, doing a lot of different things with this. This allows you to get the bait way out, away from yourself, away from the boat, away from the bank. So these have a really, really good place in your arsenal on the foundation here, because you're able to get a feel for what a bait feels like really far away from you. You're able to get a bait out to deeper water that you wouldn't be able to with one of these. So starting out, I still recommend start out with the spinning and then move to bait casting, because the learning curve on a bait cast reel is going to take a while. I'm not going to be one of those guys that's going to tell you to put a Corrado DC or an SLX DC on one of these, because it doesn't make any sense. If you spend more than $100 on a reel starting out as a bait caster, it's because you got the wrong information and the wrong guidance. So keep it between 50 to $100. There's a lot of good reels in that area. The rod itself here, I think they're $95. So you're about $200 into a whole combo, $150 to $200. But this will cover. So the number 4 rod is going to be another bait cast setup, and it's going to be primarily catered to moving baits. So with that being said, when you start looking at crankbaits, you start looking at straight retrieve moving baits, some chatterbaits. Chatterbaits are kind of looked at now as like a crankbait. It's a moving bait, but you want the fish to actually eat it before you feel it, and that's why you're going to a softer rod than you normally would from starting out. So this right here, we talked about in a previous video that I'm going to go ahead and link up right here, and it's talking about this rod and a reel combo that you can get. It's a budget cranking setup. You want a crankbait specific setup to help you catch more fish, because although this rod is a medium heavy and it covers a lot of different things, it's a medium heavy fast action. And what that means is that this rod isn't as limber as something that's in the moderate action category. The reason you want something that's softer is because it gives you a little bit of a delay from the time the fish eats it to the time you feel it. What that means is you have a better chance, one, of hooking that fish and getting them to the boat. Secondly, the softer rod, when a fish jumps or shakes and tries to kick the bait, the rod is going to recover slower. What that does is it gives the fish less leverage to throw your bait. So you're going to get more fish in the boat, and it's because the rod is kind of a rubber band between you and the fish, and treble hook baits really need that. So blade baits, spoons, crank baits, a lipless, if you're going to throw it and straight retrieve it, there's no grass, go a moderate action. If you're going to throw a lipless and there's grass and you're ripping it out, I would say go ahead and stay with the medium heavy. But this is going to cover wide array of crankbaits, square bills, medium depth, even some heavier depth crankbaits, 10 to probably 14 feet. And again, it's just because it's going to help you get more fish in the boat. So now you've got 4 presentations that you have here that really, really help you cover a ton of different scenarios. And we're going to talk about our final rod and reel and why you're going to throw that. All right, so the final rod and or reel that I'm going to suggest you add to your lineup is going to be something like this favorite balance rod. This is a 7'4" heavy but moderate action. This is going to be for throwing heavy jigs, Carolina rigs, heavy Texas rigs, punching baits, stuff that's really frogs you can throw with this. It's something that is when you're fishing really heavy cover or you're fishing a really heavy bait, this is going to be something I recommend. It's reel combination, something that's going to be faster retrieve, something in the 7 to 1 to 8 to 1 gear ratio, 8.5 to 1. And the reason for that is a lot of times when you're fishing a jig or a Texas rig or a lure that is close to you, there are times you're going to want to catch up to that bait because the fish is going to eat it and start running at you, because typically they're going to pick it up close to the bank and they're going to run. And if you're on a boat, they're going to be running towards you. If you're on the bank, a lot of times they're going to be running away from you. That allows you to just catch back up with them. If you're fighting the fish and they make a run at you, you still can keep pressure on them. So a lot of single hook baits, heavier baits, it's going to be something I'm going to recommend throwing on this heavy, moderate rod. Again, frogs. Frogs are not known to be something you're going to throw that's a heavy bait, but you are typically going to be throwing frogs in heavy, heavy vegetation. Throwing a frog on a medium heavy like this, it'll work, but if you get a fish that buries itself in lily pads, hydrilla, grass mats, anything, you run a really strong risk of breaking this rod trying to pull that fish from that cover or out of there. The line ratings are going to be a lot higher. This is rated up to like 25-pound line. I typically throw heavier. If I'm throwing a frog, I'm throwing a frog on 50 or 55, 60-pound braid. If I'm pitching or flipping heavy baits, I'm throwing it on the same line. Jigs and heavy cover, same deal. I don't want to get broke off. I want to be able to pull that fish out of that cover, and I want to be able to retrieve them really fast. So something in the 7 and probably 7'2" to 7'6" inch heavy is going to be what I recommend for your final rod setup, coupled with a reel that's kind of a high gear ratio reel, something that is going to allow you to catch up to a fish if you need to. So that's a wrap. 5 rods coupled with a few reel recommendations that can really help you for 2020 and beyond take your bass fishing as you go along your path from beginner to advanced. These are going to get you done for a wide variety of presentations and baits, and it's going to help you land more fish, get more fish in the boat, and become a better angler. If you like this content or you want to add anything to it, hit that comment box below and let's discuss, recommendations. Or if you have a rod reel and you're looking to add one to your arsenal, go ahead and comment below and I will help assist you in selecting your next rod and reel. Again, hopefully this content helps you. Hopefully it's helping you get ready for the next season and become a better angler. And if you can take somebody out and fish, or you can introduce somebody to fishing and you can use this content to help them grow as an angler, do it. Please share it with them. We're going to be down in Columbus in about 2 weeks. I've got something I'm working on. I'll probably announce it in the next video. But essentially, if you're at the show, you come find me. If you're subscribed to this channel, there's going to be some things that are given away. So hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share this content with people you know that can use this information, and let's help make 2020 the best fishing season that you or somebody you know has ever had. Thank you, and tight lines.